Nokiasaari. Number 3 Air Regiment flew Messerschmitt fighters to reconnoiter the movements of Soviet troops. Only small formations of fighters could be sent to intercept the huge Soviet air formations. Bombing raids by 4 Air Regiment were also aimed at the Karelian Isthmus. In mid-June, a concerted attack by 45 bombers on Soviet tanks in the plains of Siiränmäki and Kuutaselkä caused great destruction. In 10 days, Soviet troops were in front of Ympäri and retook the Karelian capital on 20th of June. In this serious situation, the Commander-in-Chief of the Air Force ordered 4 Air Regiment to conduct bombing operations regardless of losses. 4th Army Corps, fighting the onslaught of an overwhelming opponent, was supported by several air attacks on Soviet artillery positions, tanks and troop convoys. Cooperation between Finnish units in the decisive battles of Tali, Ihantala on the Karelian Isthmus east of Ympäri was excellent. Soviet troop movement was detected by radio reconnaissance. Messerschmitt pilots of 3 Air Regiment made several reconnaissance flights per day, and the information gathered from them was confirmed by photographic reconnaissance. Concentrated fire by the aircraft of the Air Regiment and the dive bombers of the Germany Kulmi detachment was directed with the aid of photographs onto targets minutes before the Russians attacked. In the last few days of June, the situation on the Karelian Isthmus in the Tali area turned critical when fierce Finnish counterattacks failed to restore the main defensive line. Once again, the 4th Army Corps had to withdraw to new positions which, with artillery support, were held until the end of the war. In the last phase of the Great Soviet Offensive, the primary missions of the fighters was to cover the bomber squadrons. Soviet fighters did not shoot down a single Finnish bomber. However, 7 were lost to anti-aircraft fire. The combat skills of Finnish pilots was proved by the downing of 315 Soviet aircraft in June 1944 alone, for the loss of only 16 aircraft. Fighter ace Warrant Officer Ilmari Juuttilainen scored 34 air victories in the major offensive on the Karelian Isthmus. Air support was a decisive contribution to the final result of the Tali-Ihantala battles. Overwhelming Soviet attacks could be halted at the point of main effort by well-timed artillery and bombing concentrations. The Soviet attack, launched in the direction of the River Svea and Maselga at the end of June, was initially supported by more than 1,000 aircraft. The withdrawal of the Finnish Aunus Group and the 2nd Army Corps through the East Karelian wilderness was covered by the 1st and 2nd Air Regiments. When Soviet forces made a surprise assault across Lake Ladoga in the rear of Finnish forces at Tulos, bomber squadrons of 4 Air Regiment under the cover of Curtiss fighters were ordered to delay the Soviet landing on the eastern shore of Ladoga. At the beginning of July 1944, the Soviets launched an attack across the Bay of Viipuri, west of the city and across the river Vuoksi, with the aim of crushing the Finnish defences. A battle which lasted several days began in the Bay of Viipuri, resulting in the withdrawal of Soviet landing troops with heavy casualties. The Finnish Air Force began its last major battle on the Karelian Isthmus in the Vuoksi waterway area to fend off the Soviet attack. Day after day, bomber squadrons pounded the spearheads of Soviet attacks on Vuosalmi, where Soviet troops attempted to cross the Vuoksi River regardless of their losses. On the 11th of July 1944, the Soviet attack was halted by the determined resistance of Finnish forces. A few days later, the Soviets began transferring their troops to the German front. With the situation on the Karelian Isthmus settling down, air squadrons reinforced East Karelia, where Soviet attacks were successfully halted in various sectors of the front in July and August 1944. At the end of the Continuation War on the 4th of September 1944, the Finnish Air Force could be well satisfied with its performance. For more than 3 years it had supported ground and naval forces in many diverse ways. 2,800 Soviet aircraft had been shot down. The Air Force accounted for 1,600 of them. Finnish losses included 209 aircraft and 281 aircrew killed in action. The highest decoration of the war, the Mannerheim Cross, was awarded to 19 airmen for their bravery in war. 2 pilots, Captain Hans Wendt and Warrant Officer Ilmari Juttilainen, were awarded it twice. Finland ended the war against the Soviet Union still independent, though having lost parts of her territory. Once more, Finnish armed forces had to be summoned, this time to expel German troops from Lapland, a condition specified in the truce agreement. Formation consisting of bomber and fighter squadrons also took part and supported ground forces in their battles until the end of the Lapland War on the 27th of April 1945.